Annyeonghaseyo! Welcome to Afternoona Delight. We're Leah, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unnies.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hi there. Megan, you remembered your line this week.
I did remember my line. I did.
Yay.
I know. I'm proud of myself that I didn't screw up and say
We can say whatever we want in greeting, but we've just fallen into these.
Maybe we should change it up sometime and just surprise everyone.
Oh my gosh,
next time I'm going to start
and say, "Hey, everybody!" What if I just cut you off?
And I'm like, "Hi there," and Amy's. So we got a comment where someone said that they can't always tell the difference between my voice, I'm Megan, and Leah. And and it was funny because and it's totally fine, by the way. We're not, the comment
this is not fine. This is not a shady comment.
No, it was not a shady comment. It just made me laugh because Leah then posted in our Slack, she was like, "Oh my God, do I have a Pennsylvania accent?" And we're like, no. It was just really funny.
But there's also go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say I can see that. Sometimes when I'm listening to podcasts, I listen to this podcast called Scamfluencer. I really like it. But it's basically just a podcast about scammers. And the two women sound so alike. It drives me insane. And it's not their fault. There's no fault here. It just, I have a really hard time telling them apart.
Here's what I think it is. And this is Amy. just in case. Hello, this is Amy. I have such a straight, total Midwestern accent, and you two do not have Midwestern at all. And so it's, to know that one's East Coast and one's West Coast, if you're not familiar with all of the U.S. dialects, mine's the Midwest one, which is why I think that you two may have a sort of similarity because you're not Midwest.
I think
which
the Midwest
is unusual because I grew up with,
but you're not. You have this
You know what though? I was editing the podcast that came out today, and there were a couple things you said, Leah, that I was like, "Ooh, the Midwest came in." There were a couple.
So
I forget now
because I have lived on the West Coast of the U.S. What? I don't know. Hawaii since 2006, and then California since 2011. But I'm not going to claim I'm not a West Coaster. It's so funny today. Even today we were talking because there was a single bolt of lightning, one. The sky lit up, which was unusual. This is not common, but I was like, "Oh, lightning." And then it was boom, thunder. And I was like, "Oh, that was surprising." I shit you not. Within 10 minutes, I had my daughter calling me being like, "We've closed school and I need to come home." And then my other daughter who does after school care, it's an outdoor program. They wrote and they were like, "Because of the weather, it's been canceled. Come get them." And by the time I got both of them, it was sunny out. It was blue skies in the sky, but it was one clap of thunder and one bolt of lightning. And so I'm not advocating for my kids to be in a golf course in a lightning storm, but it was a single one. And when I picked up my daughter, she was at a friend's house. She'd walk to a friend's house. He was like, "Californians are just soft." I'm like, "Oh, where are you from?" He's like, "Oh, I'm from California." And I'm like, "Okay, well, you can claim it. You can own it."
Right.
Yeah. I said to you, I sometimes California really does feel like a different country.
It does.
Especially compared to I would say Leah or Amy and I have similar weather. I think you and I, we get storms, we get snow, we get, I don't know, are we maybe on the same latitude? We might be.
We're pretty close. I think we are pretty close.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Leah is not on the same latitude for sure. And so, but still California, just the weather out there is just so different.
Yeah, but again, I grew up in the Midwest, so I know what real stormy weather is like Michigan gets weather. One thing I want to say before we jump into our topic, because it did make me laugh though, is we were talking about Michigan accents. And, and
we were talking about it privately in Slack.
Yeah, just ourselves.
Yeah.
And it was funny to me because Amy was like, "I don't there is no there was something what did you say? There's no Michigan accent."
No. So here's I'm gonna back it up here because I have to bring up because Megan was watching
the thickest. It's such a thick accent.
No, Megan was watching. You were watching a documentary, And
No, I was watching a trial.
A trial
Going on right now, and it took place in Michigan. And it was a very serious trial.
Yeah.
But about a very serious topic, but yet everyone had these like strong Michigan accents, and it was like killing me because it was. I said it's like Fargo, which it's not. It wasn't as extreme as Fargo.
That was the only thing that confused me. I wasn't like triggered or like mad. I was just like, Michigan sounds like Fargo. Like I'm like, I have a friend who's from Michigan. Like her whole family's from Michigan. Some still live there. They don't sound like that. So that was my whole thing, is that I did not know that Michigan. I know Michigan has a Midwestern accent, but I was thinking of like Fargo, which I know they do more of like a Minnesota thing in the show Fargo.
Yeah. I would say though, to my ear though, the people talking in this trial sounded so thick. Like to me, it sounded
And I think what made me laugh about it was because I would say Amy has the closest accent to it. Okay. And so that's why I was laughing at first when she was like, accent. And I was like,
because I was expecting it sounded like Minnesota. And I would agree that I sound like Michigan because I don't hear an accent with people I know from Michigan.
Was like a whole trial of Amy speaking. Like that's what it felt like to me. And it was like, I don't know. I like the Midwest accent. I just think there's something like homey about it. I don't know how to explain it.
I mean, it's so weird because I feel like it's bland, obviously, because it's my accent. So I feel like I don't have an accent.
I don't feel like it's bland. I'm trying to think if I can even do it now. Like, I feel like I'm going to have like a Jersey accent, but to be like, I'm going to go, I can't even
say Chicago.
I can't because I say it snobby now. I say Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago.
But be like, Chicago. Like, I'm going to go to I can't even talk like it, but it's like even the vernacular of like, you know, like it's the party, like, okay, if you're in Michigan, you're like, I'm going to go to the party store. I can't talk like it anymore. I feel like such an imposter. But it'd be like growing up, I'd be like, Mom, I want to get like 5 cents to go up to the party store to get some pop or whatever. And like
now you say soda, right?
I need to go get the soda. Yeah, I would never say pop.
Well, it's even the way Amy says accent, because she says like accent a little bit. You're not that thick, but you do say accent differently.
Right. There's this. I mean, like if I was more like South Side Chicago, it would be like accent. It would be more like funny, that, you know?
Yeah, and we kind of talked about this before, but I can't always hear K-drama like accents or dialects. Like obviously people from like I have a hard time. Except I was watching Marry My Husband, and this is not a spoiler because I'm not going to say who it was, but there was a character and she does say she's from Busan. And before she said it, I was like, there is something different about the way she is speaking. There's an accent there. So what is going on? And then she said she was from Busan. And I was like, oh my God. So I kind of heard it. And I don't know if this is the thing though. I wish I knew more because I couldn't tell, is the character exaggerating it or,
right. But I know who you're talking about. Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
But I could tell that there was something different about the way she was speaking and about how the way she was like ending her words and I felt really proud of myself that I kind of like picked it up before I realized where she was from. And the other character then was responding to her with a little bit of an accent too. Like it was like, I don't know. So I was like, oh, and I was kind of proud of myself that I was able to tell that because I never would have been able to tell that like a year ago.
Yeah. And I totally get that. That's why, you know, a lot of our listeners are not from the US. And so if we all sound alike to you, I totally get that because
totally fine.
I don't know. Yeah. I can't pick out dialects from other countries, especially in other languages.
Yeah. I have a really hard time still with English, like UK dialect. I mean, obviously, well, Scotland and Ireland, I can usually tell a difference, but like the different like English accents, like
northern and southern, and
oh my gosh, that's so hard. I mean, I know the ones that like are so thick, like PE Blinders, that I can't understand, but it's very hard for me. It's very hard for me to even pick out those English accents.
I feel like I can do that. Okay, I can do English in general. I'm okay. You take me out of English, and I am horrific.
Right.
And so I'm sorry, I have no ear for it. And so, yeah. So if you're listening and you're like, oh, I feel cold out, never feel cold out at all. Like,
no. We're just saying we understand.
We all sound the same. Yeah, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Well, I have one quick.
I never say come on. I
Yeah, I
never
do say that.
Yeah.
I say, come on.
Come on.
I know. I actually hate that I do it, but at this point,
on.
come on, guys. I know, but in
Come
that, it's like that's me. Anyway, before we move on, Leah, does Australia have like it's such a big country? I'm assuming there are different accents within it, or no, not really.
Dialects, yeah.
Oh, so, okay. Anyone who's Australian right now is gonna be like, "Fuck you for getting this wrong." So, like, don't
I'm sorry.
don't
I'm
at me.
sorry.
But what
I'm
what
curious.
I would say, it seems like to me is like there is. I would say it feels like it gets broader in some areas. Like, so if you go to like rural Queensland, for example, I'm going to say that accent I could hear, like it would come out like very broad, very drawly, very like I would be, but I would say like, I don't know if I could be like, oh yeah, that's rural Queensland versus that's rural Western Australia. I feel like there's just like a rural accent that feels much broader
That makes sense.
than you would have to like a city accent where I have, because I have friends who live country and I have friends who live city, and the city accents to me, they're generally like more urban folk doing like more professional jobs. So I'd say it's like a posher accent.
Yeah.
And so like the you know, they can drop into like jokey accents to like put stuff on, but I would say, yeah, it's a little bit more proper, a little bit like, you know, less sweary. And then, yeah, when you go rural, it feels like it just gets way broader. And so, I guess that to me is what I notice the most. And I also hear it like how we have like, you know, like, I want to be careful with how I'm going to say this, would be like if I'm riding a train and I'm getting off in different neighborhoods, I feel like I can hear different accents, but I would say it kind of is more like in some ways like, yeah, socioeconomic than I would say. That's how I feel like I hear it when I'm like in and around. So if anyone's like listening and they're like, I disagree or agree, that's kind of what I hear is like, there's like word choices and like pronunciation and like how you like that I would say kind of fits more like how we,
Like
and we have the same
like
thing.
pop and soda, like stuff like that.
Kind of like that, but also I would say it hits within just like we have like if you were going to be imitating a wasp type of accent,
Right.
like, you know, like a wealthy American versus like you are like, I want to be very careful about like not getting
No,
totally
I think you explained it. That makes sense to me, and but it doesn't sound like there is as much variety. It seems like I guess there would be, but you know what I mean.
Well, and if anybody is by any chance listening for the first time, just to put this in context, Leah's husband is Australian, and she has spent much time there.
Yeah. So if anyone's asking me about that, yeah,
like why is Leah commenting on an Australian accent?
Like, why are you asking Leah about Australia?
But for example, like I would say, like my mother-in-law has more of like I would say she's fairly like posh in her speech. Not that she grew up like upper class and wealthy, but I'd say that like she's very like she doesn't do a lot of like unnecessary swearing. She yeah, I would say that it feels just like a little bit more proper.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Then I feel like if I'm like at like a train station waiting somewhere else, people are using the C word very liberally.
I know, that is so funny to me.
Here's a funny thing about the C word. So a couple of weeks ago, my kids and I, my big Christmas gift to them is I took them to see Brett Goldstein stand up, Roy Kent from Ted Lasso. And he talked about the C word because it is used very liberally in England. And like it kind of like how we use the F word, like how it has every function in the world. And so he said, I mean, one of his bit was like, he's trying to bring the C word, you know, to America and make it, you know, less controversial because like people will greet each other with it. Like it's not, you know, like, whereas here, like, I don't even want to say it, you know?
Yeah. Nick will greet his friends with this word. And look, I'm acting like very like proper with that right now.
Where we say a bunch of shit on here. I know.
I mean, but I do use the C word, but I understand that it has a very big power here that like fuck does not. So I'm not going to just toss it around on this. But when I'm alone, I find it very liberating to say. I don't use it like they do when they're like talking to each other. But I feel like whenever I say it, it feels like it has a power that I really appreciate.
It's powerful. That's
I mean,
I do use it, but very selectively and around very few people.
Yeah, I was going to say another Hermione fanfic that I read, and so I'm all over that. Just quick book rec is Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love, which is more of a rom-com than Manacled was. But anyway, they used it in like a sex scene, like just referring to her "See you next Tuesday." I
use it, but it's my aliens use it. That is the word I use in my alien books.
They do?
Mm-hmm.
You're using the C word in the alien books?
Yeah, that's.
I would have never guessed this.
Yeah, that's what all my aliens refer to. Yeah, come on.
Whoa. Megan, I feel bad. I need to start reading these alien books and you heard all this country talk.
Oh, yeah.
So just really quick to point out the difference in my Midwestern accent and Leah's California Midwestern accent is the way we say Megan.
You do say my name. I like the way you say my name, Amy, but you
Megan and Megan.
Yeah, you do say my name differently.
Megan.
You say Megan. You have more of an A to it, and I have more of a short E to it.
See, that feels Midwest to me. I grew up because my sister's Megan. Megan, like that feels like Michigan. Like,
and I say
Megan,
like more Megan.
And then in Australian, it's often referred to as Megan.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I like the way you both say it. Different people.
I wasn't saying one was better than the other. I'm just saying like that's like our like.
But that's like a bag versus a
bag. And you say
bag.
And you say bag.
Bag.
You do say, and you say both. You put an L in there.
Both, yeah.
You do. You say both.
Roof, bagel. Okay, everyone's
let's go.
Fuck you. Let's talk about sex.
Sorry, yeah. So really, before we get into it, I do want to toss out. So last month, if you listened to our last month's quote unquote uncensored, we didn't call it uncensored last month. We did a soft launch of a sort of morphed format. We're doing the same thing, but it's a little bit more structured. And so instead of calling it uncensored, we're calling it an Afternoona check-in, which basically means we're still unscripted. We have no script for tonight. And we're still uninterrupted because we're not doing any, mid-show or whatever stuff like that. But we do have a little bit of a topic. And so this month's topic is sex, because why not? See you next Tuesday. So we have talked about sex in K-dramas before, but it's been like a couple of years. And so I think it's time we bring this topic up again, because we've watched so many other dramas since the first time we ever talked about this. And we are seeing different ways that sex is treated in dramas, and way differently than it is treated in, some of the Western stuff that we watch and have watched, over the years. And we also got some perspective from our patrons over in Patreon who come from all over the world. So I love getting a wide variety of perspectives on this topic. So basically what we did is we tossed out about 6 questions to the Patreon, which we're also going to basically be tossing to ourselves, and have a little bit of a discussion of sex in dramas.
I like that intro. Good job.
Thanks. Off the cuff, right?
Yeah.
No script. So let me tell you what those questions are. And they're not anything super formal, but here's what we posed to the Patreon and what I'm also posing to all of us as well. So first and foremost, what are, our general thoughts about sex and dramas? And this can go anywhere from talking about sex overtly in dramas, sex on screen with the sort of, parenthetical that we know that on screen usually means some sexy kissing and then fade to black. And then waking up together, or, sometimes sex is never mentioned at all. So just kind of in general, what are your thoughts on the treatment of sex in dramas in the broad sense? And then we'll go to see what some of our patrons said about it.
You know what? I do feel like I want to talk about this because we still get talked about because we are sex positive and we talk about sex a lot. Yep. Sometimes I feel like we get feedback that's like, you just want sex in your K-dramas. Like, you want to see that sex. And I'm going to say the most boring answer, which is the most truthful answer, which is it just depends on the story.
100%.
There are some stories that I feel like should have more sex. It fits the story, it fits the characters, it fits the experience that you should be having. And there's some that I am fine if they hold hands, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it fits the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I know it's the boring answer, but I agree. And I would honestly say that there are not many dramas where I think there should have been a sex scene there. I actually don't. I truly don't. Sometimes, though, I will say, well, no, I would say a lot of times I do wish there was more skinship. So just straight on, like, intimacy in not a bedroom scene. So sometimes I wish there was a little bit more hugging. I wish maybe there was more like face touching, stuff like that. So sometimes I wish that was there. I way more than I'm like, I wish they would, fuck.
Although I am going to go on the record for this because I understand it's a convention of K-dramas, and I've hit my max. I'm done. I am officially done with this. I am done with fisheye kissing.
Oh, no.
I tried to be very patient for a long time. I've tried to be like, there's nuance. It's just part of the charm. If I see another grown ass fucking adult,
I know.
If it's a YA, sure.
Because it's not just the eyes, it's the like dead mouth too. Like
and it's just that like, ooh, I can't believe it. And I'm like, no. We are grown ups. Like, unless I'm watching a young adult, like a high school set where like you don't know and like that's fine. It does not make it feel innocent. It does not make it feel cute. It makes me be like, it takes me out every single time now.
Yeah.
Every time.
So I recently watched a BL, and oh my God, I have to look up. Oh, it's called Love for Love's Sake. That's it. Okay. So, which I loved. It was on Aichi. So let me just tell you the quick premise, because I want to talk about the kiss that happens. So the premise is basically there's like a 30-year-old man, and he gets thrown into what almost seems to him like a game simulation, and his mission is to make this high school boy happy. This high school boy who's like miserable. So it is kind of like a 30-year-old man with like this like 19-year-old, but go with it because it's like a weird game thing. Anyway, their first kiss. First of all, the 30-year-old was like surprised, and so his eyes were open, and I was thinking, he's fucking 30. Like, do not tell me, but then he closed his eyes and like gave into the kiss, which is fine. I am fine if you're surprised, but then you better start closing those eyes and getting into it. But it was really cute because it was a kiss and their lips didn't move. And I was like, I mean, that can happen in BLs sometimes. But it was really cute because the younger guy pulled away and he was like, I've never, like, was that okay? Like, I can move my lips more next time. And it was like, I loved that like dialogue where, because he was like, I'm not that good at this yet. And the other guy was like, it's okay. And he's like, maybe move your lips. And the guy was like, yeah, I can move my lips more. And I loved that. I love that like acknowledgement of the fact that it was like a very static kiss and it can get better. And I would love to see that, especially when you have two people, like we have dramas where these people are like 39. And
no, that's what I'm saying.
They're still like, giving fish-eyed kiss with no lips moving.
It's ludicrous to me. And I don't care if you're at home and you're like, oh, then you're such a pervert. No, I'm sorry. Like, unless this is like the 40-year-old virgin and you have never, ever experienced like humanity touching you, I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I hate it.
I will say,
and it feels slut shamey to me. I'm gonna just say that too. I'm gonna say not only do I not buy it, I feel like I don't need you to feel innocent or confused or like, ooh,
like an ingenue. I don't
like you don't have to prove that you don't have to prove your virtue to me when I kiss you for the first time.
Yes,
like I mean, like I don't care what your body count is. Like you do you, guy or girl. If you just know your way around a mouth, you do it. And if you don't, sure. But sitting there with your eyeballs wide open, I honestly, I'm just telling it like it is tonight. I couldn't hate it more. I could not hate it more.
It was one of our first episodes. We did like we did an episode on cliches. And we talked about our favorite cliches and our least
Mhm.
favorite cliches. That was, what, 3 years ago now or something. I said in that episode, I remember my least favorite cliche was the fish-eyed kiss. I said it that long ago,
Yeah.
and I still...
I tried for a long time to just be like, I mean, I didn't like it, but I was like, yeah, you know, I was going with the, like, it's one of the K-drama things. You just kind of have it. And I hit it watching My Demon. I had this moment in My Demon where there was the fish-eyed kiss. And I was like, not with this demon. No, no.
Not with
You
Song
get
Kong.
pissed by this demon.
Yeah.
When Song Kong comes at
lean
you,
in. You lean in.
you shut those eyes and you open that mouth. I do not want to see this.
You involve the tongue
I was
now.
really upset. And I was watching it with my daughter, Poppy, who will be reporting back on My Demon as well. And I did not share this out loud because I didn't want to get into this with her, but be like, yeah, because for her, here, I'm going to set the context. Fish-eye kiss is fine for her. She's 8 years old.
Right. Let me just, I do want to say, in Marry My Husband, grown ass kisses.
Yes.
These are grown ass adults.
And skinship. Like, this drama is doing so much right. Like, please, let's have it stick the landing because it's doing so much right.
So much. I just have to say, seeing grown ass kissing made me so goddamn happy. I bet Park Min Young has been doing this for a long time. She's like, I am not doing pecs. No way.
No, not with a redwood like Na and Woo. Like, no.
Not with Na and Woo. Not with Na and Woo.
No.
She is like, I have this redwood in front of me.
I'm like, I'm making out with this Hubei redwood. Like, I'm in for it.
And you know what? She did it.
Yes, she did.
And he did it back. That's another thing. He, like, that man has been kissing. Okay. And you cannot tell me he hasn't been kissing since an early age. Like, that was great. Or he's practicing on, like, an apple. Because he looks good.
He is a
I don't think he's
29-year-old man well beyond his years in kissing.
Very
he's
good
not
kisser.
Practicing on a fucking apple.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I was very pleased to see that he was a good kisser. Like, I got belly flutters because it was a good kiss. And that's what I like. And I would say, too, for Marry My Husband, this is fitting the tone of the drama. Like, the skinship, the kiss, like, it's fitting. It's fitting the
It's
drama.
so good. So I want to bring, because you already started bringing something up, which is one of my questions. No. Because I want to read a couple things from the Patreon because there are some really good responses. And so you kind of got into, like, what drama should have sexy times but didn't. And, like, the broken record is always going to be Crash Landing on You, and it is in the Patreon. But we had a really, really good response to why they think the no sex works for the storyline. But first I want to get into what some people have said, because, like, I feel like this is beating a dead horse, but we've always been like, these are, like, almost 40-year-old humans who, like, he crawled through a tunnel, like, she's sleeping in a freaking turtleneck. But anyway, let me read you some of these because they're really, really good. So the first one that popped up was all caps, listen. Crash Landing on You should have indicated something. Completely nuts that those two would have been that close and not gotten that close.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get another one. So this one says Chloe in all caps about 7 times.
Yeah.
And then, are you fucking kidding me? That they didn't sleep together when Captain Ree was in South Korea before his ducklings got there. That they didn't have sex when they exchanged couples rings. Bitch, please. Okay. But I want to get to the really good, sort of devil's advocate to that. So let me get there. I remember who said it. Okay. So love this topic. I don't have much time today to collect my scattered thoughts. However, so for now, I'll have to settle on sharing only my hot take on there being no sex in Chloe while I wait for my kiddos in elementary school pickup line. So we appreciate the dedication with our patrons. So this is, like, and the comments after are really great too. Rather than seeing lack of sex as childlike / immature / overly chaste and coy, especially with respect to Suri and Captain Ree, I see it as a case of adults doing their best to be adults. Incidentally, how I've read either an actor in or director of the film Past Lives describing the lack of any consummation of a certain love line in that story. Sadly, I couldn't quickly find a direct quote to include here, but it connects. So if you've seen Past Lives, hopefully you understand what that's connection is. So this is to say, I think the glaring absence of sex served a purpose, at least pre-Switzerland love shack at the end. I think Suri and Captain Ree knew in their bones that there wasn't a way for them to be together for the present, that she needed to be in the South and he in the North. And knowing that sad but inescapable reality, they held their libidos back because they knew if they let go and did everything they wanted, they literally couldn't go back to their lives and function without each other. Their soul connection was already so strong that to fully give their bodies to each other would have made their inevitable separation too wrenching. And yes, I realize how cheesy the phrase give their bodies to each other sounds. All that said, Suri and Captain Ree's kisses throughout the drama were some of the lowest heat, least satisfying I've seen between leads that clearly have major chemistry with each other, like they seemed almost mechanical. And 2, I would have welcomed some kind of a bed scene in Switzerland at the end, not even a sex scene per se, but waking up next to each other. Okay. So that is a very mature response. And the first comment is, I grudgingly respect your hot Chloe take.
I know, right?
But so that's a really, really mature response that does fit the story.
It is. But I would have wanted to see that on screen. So I agree that is I do love it.
So you like to see them making that decision.
I would have wanted to see. Okay, so remember that scene where they essentially get like drunk together in her living room?
Yes.
I would have wanted something there. I would have wanted something where they're like drifting together,
and then they're like, we can't.
And then they're like, you know what? Like, we can't.
This is too hard.
Like, this is too hard. And if we take that step, it will be impossible. And I would have loved, and honestly, would have changed. I would have been all in on that. I actually would have. I would have been like, fine. I don't need anything else. I don't need anything else. So that's how I feel about that. I like that. I totally like that response. And I think that's really cool. And I actually do think it fits their characterization, but like make it canon. Like, let me see it on the screen, you know? Cause actually that would have been, this is another thing, that scene would have been crazy sexy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So I agree with this.
Yeah, like the holding back. The holding back would be sexy.
Oh, so sexy.
I also just want to like throw out, I just want to say I enjoy discussions, and because I have like a different take doesn't mean I think somebody else's take is wrong. So I think that this person made a good point. I think it bears like thinking about. I do agree that like if it had been acted out on stage, that would have been interesting. But I find it interesting to be like, I think this is what I'm finding is the interesting part of the question is if a couple has sex versus not having sex, does that make the separation more painful or not? Because if you really truly had your soulmate and you were being in that separation, my argument's going to be if I didn't bone him, that doesn't make it less pain. Like, I'm not gonna be like, well, I feel a little better now. But it doesn't hurt quite so much.
But I mean, like that, I think that begs the question of, do you look at it as boning, or is there a deeper connection? Or is there a deeper connection when you give your body over to somebody else? Because I think we've had this discussion before. Like, I've never had a one night stand. Like,
no, I've never heard this. You have.
I thought yeah.
Are you serious?
I swear we've had this discussion when we talked about sex before. Yeah, I've never had a one night stand. Like, to me, it's a very emotional thing.
I haven't had a one night stand.
Well, because you've only ever been with Neil.
Well, no, that's not true. But yeah, no,
pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, well, look, I have come to realize in my adulthood that.
And this is like, no judgment to anybody who has had one.
No. What I'm saying is,
I kind of wish I had.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I find that interesting. I have had I've had a lot. I mean, I've had many. I'm going to just say, like, I mean, not many in terms of like, I mean, many for.
In my next life, I want to be Leah.
No. Because here's the thing: it's like I got together. Okay, I'm just gonna like. I guess we're all friends here. Pull up the chairs, Mom. Like, turn off the fucking thing if you're listening. I guess what I'm trying to say is like it's funny to me to be like, oh yes, I have, because like there's a lot of nuance within that, because I met my husband like when I was 20, got together with him when I was 21.
So I'm not counting
like,
stupid stuff I did like as a teenager either. You know?
Wait. Well, I'm sorry.
No,
like,
I didn't. No, okay. I'm talking about just fooling around. I've never had sex with somebody and never talked to them or seen them again. I've never.
Oh, okay. So that's what I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
I have many times before that. So I had a phase that I would liberally call a empowered hoe phase. Like, I don't feel bad about it, but like, I certainly, like, I can certainly, I know from a fact that I could have sex with people that I don't give a shit about, that I'm never going to see again, and be like, that was fine and fun. I don't feel bad about myself, and I'm living my life. Like, I definitely don't need to, like, I am not a demisexual, for example. I do not need a romantic connection.
And I am.
Yes. Yeah. So this is interesting.
Yes, yeah.
But I guess, so this is where it becomes interesting too for this take though, because for me, I'm like, yeah, maybe that's where I'm reading into it, that like, I don't
I
feel like
with that.
Yeah. Cause when I hear the sex thing, I'm like, I mean, it's just like, that's to me part of the relationship. It's not the whole meat and potatoes.
Like, am I really going to miss you more if my vag feels good? Like,
I mean, I would be like, just do it, because like, you might as well take an O for the road. But like, if I like you, I'm going to like you the same either way.
And
like,
see, me, the sex would make it more emotional.
I'm leaning more emotional. I would say I'm leaning more towards how Amy feels. So I feel I'm a little, I think, in between you guys, but like that's why that, like, I like that take because I lean towards more, but I don't think there's, and that's the thing. This is an interesting discussion because it is true. Like, how are you treating, like, and everyone's going to obviously feel differently about the emotional connection over sex.
But think
so
about
that's going to hit you differently.
Right. We're all looking at it through our own sort of, sexual spectrum, like how we identify. And I think that's good.
I actually think that's interesting. I didn't think about it that way either. Whereas,
yeah. Well, let's move on. So we're not just like on the same question, but this was a good one. I think much reflected. I'm glad everyone knows I went through a empowered hoe phase. In case you were dying to know.
I mean, mine lasted like a month, so I was like real. I had like, it was a month, and then I had the ball and chain. No, I'm just kidding. I say that with love.
How much can you get done in a month?
A lot.
I think if I was allowed to be, this is something. So I, on my phone, like, you know how you get like on certain algorithms, I'm going to just say this is something funny to me, because I never super liked the show, and I still can't say it's held up at all, but Sex and the City, I for some reason get like Sex and the City like clips on like all my social media, which is such a weird.
I recently have gotten up. Maybe the algorithm is doing something, because I've recently got a bunch of those too.
Oh my god! So like, I do not get any.
It's very weird,
which is funny because I watched it. Like, I watched all of it.
And what I've realized is, and I didn't realize this about myself, but as I watch them as they come through, the only person who ever consistently makes sense to me is Samantha.
Samantha, I knew you were going to say that.
Samantha is the only, everyone else I'm like, you are fucking annoying. Like, no, Carrie's the worst. Like the worst. But Samantha, I'm always like, yes, very practical, Samantha. Thank you.
I can see that you would identify more. Yeah. That makes
sense. So, sorry, I'm still coughing because I'm still recovering even 2 weeks later.
You're okay. Wait,
okay,
go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to jump to the next question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Which is, okay, can dramas be sexy without ever mentioning sex? We talked about this a little. I mean, like, I think this is where you were going with the Crash Landing, but I feel like there's other examples beyond Crash Landing to talk about. And I'm going to talk about one that we've talked about many a time. But a drama that I feel like, to me, feels sexy and emotional and has zero sex, zero kissing is Mr. Sunshine. I feel like there is like so much longing. Some of the sex, like the scene where our sexy bloody samurai reaches out to like the red silk dress and it kind of like runs through his fingers. And there's so much like hatred of her, himself, the lustful longing, the reason that the hate is actually like the parallel to the deep love he feels and all that conflict that all happens with just like this graspy little fingers like touching this skirt. And it's this one of the sexiest moments in all of K-drama. And A, she doesn't even like him like that. And B, nothing happens.
It's the tension. Like the dramas can create tension like no other, like so well. And I think, you know, we've talked about like dramas that are really good at like edging us. And if it can do it, make us want and never get, I think it's still good.
Mm-hmm. So what is a drama that you think does, like, what's a really great sex, like a drama that has a great sex scene?
I don't know if this would be considered necessarily a great sex scene. So I'm going to maybe alter. I think a drama that I really, really wanted to see the characters have sex, and they did, in a very romantic, soft, gentle way, was Rain or Shine. It's a drama where I wanted those characters desperately to connect that way. I thought it was kind of necessary for both of them. It felt like we had been edged the entire drama with them because I did really, really love the romance between those two. And they were both so kind of like broken, and they had already connected so deeply on an emotional level. They just seemed like each other's halves. And then I loved that the heroine initiated it and was like, yeah, let's do it. And I loved that. So that was a drama where I was like, thank you for giving me what I wanted. And it wasn't, there was no like blouse. I don't think it was like an overly sexy sex scene. And so that's the thing. Sometimes it's not even about like, I don't need to be titillated. I want it because for me, I want to see that connection between the characters. And some characters I feel like it's necessary, and that was one of them.
Yeah, I think, and this got brought up in the Patreon too, but I still think one of the sexiest sex scenes that's very fade to black is What's Wrong with Secretary Kim, but still so freaking sexy. Like the making out before and then waking up together after, like Park Min Young and Park Seo Joon's like kissing in that scene is next level. And that will always be one that lives rent free in my mind, that because they got the, you know, even the pre-foreplay, right? Because we're never going to see much of that, if anything at all. But just the makeout stuff, they got so right that I was okay with everything else just being fade to black and then waking up together. That was sexy enough for me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give 3 quick honorable mentions, just not even getting into the scenes, just naming them, but 3 honorable mentions that I think had great sexy time scenes. Suspicious Partners.
Yeah.
Oh my God. How could I forget?
Coffee Prince, and then Something in the Rain, which you two have not seen. But the one I am going to give the trophy to, that if I have to think of a sex scene, and it's funny that it's this one because it's not one of my favorite dramas, but it's a drama we've talked about forever. It is very impactful. I'm curious if you can guess it. It is the Lee Dong-wook baby arm sex vein in Tale of Nine Tail. That is one of the, I think it is still to me like a gold standard.
Gold standard.
That is very sexy.
You don't fake that vein. Like that was some method acting. That vein was coming to life going, Papa, Papa.
Yeah. I am ashamed that's one slipped my mind. That was so sexy.
It was
and
so sexy.
Also found it to be incredibly romantic because it was like this culmination. Because Lee-yun, like, you expect him to fuck. Like, you just do. The way his, like,
he's
charm,
a mountain god.
He's a mountain god. He's a freaking Gumio. Like, the man's gonna do it. And he'd been, like, this was, like, centuries of longing.
Yes.
So I agree with you. It was, like, the scene itself was sexy, but then also like, the emotion behind it was like oh my God, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And somebody also in just going to your honorable mention, somebody in the Patreon also brought up Coffee Prince. I can't talk tonight.
Oh.
Too bad we're not editing. But Coffee Prince, I'm gonna second that or third that because it was in the Patreon too. I really love that up against the door scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then just for like straight, just hot as hell, Love in the Air, Ty BL.
I mean, let's just
One of the hottest sex scenes I've ever seen. Just straight up. It was not about the emotion. It was just.
I'm gonna say it's okay, I'm just gonna put it out there. Oh, well, okay, if we're gonna be raunchy a bit, okay.
Well,
first,
we don't have to be.
I mean, a little. First, it's very clear through the Oscar-winning acting when penetration occurs.
Absolutely. You literally know when penetration happens. That's how great it was.
Because I am a pervert, we had the Patreon podcast recently. And in it, we had our special guest, Emma from England, and she was talking about some of the bananas things she'd watched. And one of them that she shouted out was a KBL anime called Mignon.
Oh, that's it.
And she was like, all she said basically was like, it's an underground, like, it's like a underground boxer fighter who falls for like a random teen doctor, like a doctor who helps the underground fighters, who turns out to be a vampire. And I was like, I don't know. Like, sometimes you just hear something and you're like, I gotta find it. I moved mountains to find this thing. It's on Vimeo. Vimeo. So you can watch it. I watch these cartoon characters do wholly unspeakable things to each other. Like, I'm not shocked easily. And I was like, wait, am I allowed to be watching them do this?
Wow. God. Well, now I'm really sold. That's incredible.
Yes. And it's only like the whole thing. I mean, the episodes are like 8 minutes long. The whole thing is like an hour 10.
Okay.
But by the end, I would say, I mean, there's like a really hot, weird kiss scene. And this is the spoiler I'll give, is that, it's a vampire. And so the hero basically is like trying to tempt the vampire, and he like bites his mouth. So he starts bleeding. And then obviously the vampire like can't resist. So then he's like deep tongue cartoon kissing him. And there's like saliva going between their mouths, but he's drinking the blood too.
That's hot.
So I mean,
that's hot. I'm all down for
hot.
vampire.
Yeah, I like that.
But I mean, at the end we got we got some fingering in all the place. I mean, there's just a lot that happens.
Yeah. Now I'm sold.
So
if you're a pervert too, that's called mignon, because some of you little perverts out there are like, excuse me? What?
Yeah, like
that?
filet
like
mignon.
A filet mignon. Like he's a big hunk of steak.
Right.
Who's just like, I want this to be a drama. Like, I want them to remake it.
I'm just going to shout out Kin Porsche too, which Kin Porsche is on a whole nother level.
Oh,
but Kin Porsche, the thing I liked about Kin Porsche is, so the sex scenes really did matter. Like, they were very hot. Very hot. But each one mattered because a lot, the scenes kind of go from not consensual, really, or like, not, I don't, maybe like, oh my God, what's the word?
Dubious?
Dubious. Thank you. Dubious consent. And then they shift to essentially like full consent, where the one is like, can I even touch your hand? I mean, they really, it's so seeing the relationship evolve, I thought was really well done.
One of our patrons actually brought up consent as being hot, like in King the Land, saying that when he asks for consent, that was super hot. So there's, there's different levels of what we think is sexy. And I do want to point out one other thing on the Patreon, because somebody who brought up sexual tension where they're not love interests. And I really liked this because it's a drama that has been on my list for like years and I haven't watched it. So one of the most sexual tension filled scenes I can remember in a K-drama was actually in one with no romantic relationships at all, Beyond Evil. The chemistry between the two male leads in their antagonistic / cooperative relationship was fire. There was one particular scene where I was sure they would either kill each other or fuck each other in the middle of a heated conversation. Ooh. And that one has been on my list. Like ever since I watched and fell for Flower of Evil, people have been recommending Beyond Evil as having a similar like thriller type tone. And that comment just really kind of pushed that up in my list now.
Also,
I mean,
Flower of Evil.
Goblin.
What?
Oh, I was just saying Goblin. Same thing.
Yeah.
Like,
and
that should have been like an MM.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Flower of Evil had I thought, also a good sex scene because of the emotion of it. And also, they're a married couple. So, like, thank you for, you know what I mean?
Yes,
like,
we loved that scene so much, especially because it was like an emotional culmination in the drama for them to then go home and have sex. And it was fantastic.
Yeah, and they have a kid. And you know what? Sometimes I feel like in K-dramas too, marriage can be a little jokey. Like the married couple are always like fighting or something like that. And it's fun and American shows do that too. So this is not central to K-dramas, but I don't always like when it's like the wife is always annoyed at the husband and the wife is always withholding sex and that's the joke. And it's like kind of like it. I just don't love that. And so I really like Flower of Evil where they showed us a marriage that had like layers and they have a freaking kid. So like, yeah, like thank you for like presenting to us like a marriage with depth.
And if you haven't watched that drama,
and not acting like they don't have sex.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite dramas. So please go watch it if you haven't.
It's fantastic. I really think I don't remember to put it in my top 5 because it's been so long that I feel like that's a drama I should go back and watch again.
So do you have any dramas that you think had sex, but it either wasn't done well or didn't fit the story or felt like gratuitous or anything like that? Or where it just like fell flat, kind of thing.
You know what? I am going to say this, but I feel bad and we're going to be talking about this drama soon.
It's okay.
Okay. My Demon.
Okay.
And here's why. Song Kang can do no wrong for me. I have no notes. I feel like he is the living embodiment of sex. And I didn't dislike the actress. But I was surprised to feel like that felt like meh. I was like, meh. And I'm like, how? When like that's like he's a whole situation for me now. And I watched it and I was like, meh, it was all right. Like 5 out of 10 to me. Like nothing, like I'm expecting 10 out of 10, like baby arm, neck vein, like the whole thing was like very similar of like longing, culmination of time, bad boy, he's a devil. Like I was like, let's go, let's get freaky deaky down. And I felt like we kind of just went for like
it didn't go
a real focus on abs. We really focused on abs and not emotion. That's what I'm going to say.
Focus on neck veins.
Yeah, and I feel like he has amazing abs. Great. I mean, I'm like abs neutral. Like if I see, I don't have a lot either way, but I feel like the emotion didn't come for me in the My Demon.
I agree. I agree. I totally agree. And we'll talk more about that next week when we're doing My Demon. Somebody on Patreon, and I haven't watched this one, but somebody on Patreon said forecasting love and weather, that they wake up in bed, episode 1 with zero chemistry or build up. She said, but then the whole drama was awful. That is not me. That is our Patreon. I haven't watched it, but there you go.
I have not heard good things about that. Was that Song Kang? Again?
I think it was.
Song Kang and Park Min Young?
I think yeah.
And Park Min Young knows how to...
But here's the thing is, I still don't think it's him. I'm not going to hold this precious, sexy baby accountable.
No. Right.
He is. That's a good way to describe him. He's a precious, sexy baby.
Give me the ropes and I will write him a drama where he will fucking blow everyone's mind with his sexy. Okay, so maybe for the last question, because we have to wrap it up soon, but is there a time that there was what drama should have had some sexy times and didn't? I think that
other than Crash Landing on You.
Yeah. I have a controversial one. That's why I wanted to say it.
Oh,
because
go ahead. Let's hear it.
I feel like this makes me a pervert. So
no.
I'm not gonna. Okay, I don't want to give away too much because I don't want to give any spoilers for this drama. It does make me a pervert, though. It's Reply 1988. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I know. I'm like, it feels a little dirty.
You
but
gave
I
us
would have.
Boner Alley, but then didn't
Yeah.
follow through.
Yeah, and look, we got a
Right.
very good kiss towards the end. I felt like, like when we finally like solidified. I'm not going to say much about the characters because it is a love triangle and there's like mystery as to like who the final couple is. I feel like at the end we got some good kissing. I could have handled it going further because they're adults at that point. Like we're not dealing with children in high school with crushes. We're dealing with grown-ups. And I felt like I wanted to see it get to where Goblin got, where I felt like Goblin did some grown-up sexing well.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I felt like Reply 1988 could have benefited from that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like, I agree with you, but I also think if they did that, then they would have had to keep the same actors as the grown-ups. You know what I mean? Because in Reply 1988, we're going back and forth between timelines and stuff. So I would have wanted it with the young actors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but when we see them as the young actor, like
Right, they do.
basically-
Right, they do grow up a little. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, what they make weird is that, like, so basically what we're talking around is that when you watch Reply 1988, you see the couple, but they're, like, meant to be, like, in their 40s, I guess, or
Right.
50s.
Yeah.
And they're they're not the same characters. But we do see the
So
characters.
you don't
also
know
in, like,
who
their
ends
20s.
up with who, and that's
Yeah,
why.
they're trying to make it the big mystery, which is, like, it's kind of funny because it's, like, whole new people.
Yes.
But we see like in the drama, like the nuts and bolts of the drama, you see them either as high school students or as kind of like young adults, like, like they're in their early 20s navigating. At that point, fair game.
Mhm.
Fucking fair game.
Yeah, agree.
And so I would have liked to have seen that. Like when they finally had like the big kiss and you like know it's all going to be like that person. I was like, the night they had that kiss at that hotel, I was like, I could have had it go like 10 steps further.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to see what that character had in him.
I will say, look, I'm not giving any spoilers to Marry My Husband. I hope we get the whole shebang.
Right, because so far it's been sexy.
It's been sexy
Without
but it's
going
also
all the way there.
been emotional sexy.
Yes.
Like I just feel like the dramas that like hit that.
It's hitting the romance beats so well. And like I knew, so I messaged Megan earlier today and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this episode 11 is a masterclass in fun and games. I can't believe it. It's so good. And I knew that the episode was going to end with like a Dark Night of the Soul type moment. Like I knew it was because it was
Fun and
going
Games
so
was
well. And it was
great.
But I mean, it was like we're talking like all the things you said you want, like the skinship and all that, like seeing a couple like snuggling on a couch watching TV.
And he's
I
just
never
playing
knew
with her
how
hair.
much I needed that.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's like playing with her hair. Yeah, the BL I just watched, there was like a scene where like the one is just lying on the other's lap and he's like kind of messing with his hair. I was like, that's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking for.
Right.
Okay, just a little bit of skinship.
It was like just being coupley. Like it was so good. And
the brushing of hands as they walked past each other was delicious.
I can't even like it. Yeah. That's up there with like the brushing of the skirt in Mr. Sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just the secret little thing in the office. And yes, this is a spoiler of a little moment. It's one little moment, but it was so good. And y'all, I can't stress enough how amazing Na In Woo for 16 episodes is. I can't. I've
been hearing like that some netizens are like, he's not attractive enough. And I want to say, what is wrong with you?
Oh my, I can't look away.
Wrong.
I can't
You're
look
wrong.
away.
If you, this is the one time where I'm not going to listen to that. That opinion is wrong.
He is tall. He is broad. He is beautiful. And he has a deep voice.
It's the voice.
Oh my God.
I'm going to start. I have not, just for disclosure, why I'm being quiet is I'm starting it this week.
And it starts out kind of like slow with him, like, but in the end, he is just delicious. It's just a very swoony romance hero. So, and I just, it's funny. I just glanced at Patreon just to shout out a very good sex scene that absolutely needed to happen, which was Healer. But I feel like
Yes.
we have mentioned that so many times, but that probably actually.
But that's a pitch perfect sex scene. Like,
yeah, I would say that's gold standard.
when it happens,
For
how it
K-drama sex
happens, the
scenes.
morning after, like all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gold standard K-drama sex scene for me. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know what else will compare because it's that
On
good
his pristine white sheets
that he's been
in his
molding
warehouse.
Devirginized.
Divergenized.
Oh gosh.
I love it so much.
Well, this was a great little discussion. I'm glad we got to do this. Thank you to our patrons for chiming in. We'd love to hear from all of you on Instagram when we post this episode. What are some of your favorite sexy times? Or what are your thoughts about sex and dramas? You know, do you like it? Do you not need it? Is there, is it like we've been saying that it all depends on the story? We want to know what you think.
And it probably will not be the last time we talk about this.
No,
FYI.
we will talk about it all the
No.
time.
Yeah.
I can talk about sex all the time.
Right. It's fun. All right. Well, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Annyeong.
Annyeong.
Kamsahamnida. Thank you for listening to Afternoona Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AFTERNOONADELIGHT.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoona Delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, annyeong!